Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Monday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast for the next few days, including our ongoing heat wave, and then the potential for, get this, an atmospheric river in the summer as we go into the end of this week and into the weekend. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Starting here with the satellite imagery, you can see a few clouds over parts of eastern Washington, and some smoke in Mason County there from the Bear Gulch fire. Some of that pushed out toward the coast this morning. We'll take a look at that here in a couple of minutes in terms of where that smoke will be going. But otherwise, clear skies across the region. Really beautiful day again, and on the hot side, as we'll likely have highs in the 80s to 90s again across the region. So let's dive into that here shortly. Starting here with our alerts map, you can see this heat advisory remains in effect until Tuesday for Western Washington. Then as we go into Southwest Washington, we have a heat advisory issued by NWS Portland, and then this extreme heat warning, formerly known as an excessive heat warning, in effect for Clark County there until 10 p.m. Tuesday. So you can see even heat alerts across eastern Washington as well. It is pretty hot across most of the Northwest right now. Taking a look at high temperatures yesterday on Sunday there, you can see that Seattle hit 88 degrees at SeaTac. There we had 87 there in Aberdeen, 90 in Olympia, some upper 80s to low 90s across parts of Central Sound and North Sound as well. And then as we go north here toward Bellingham and British Columbia, those temperatures are a little bit cooler, but you still got up to 85 in Friday Harbor, 84 in Mount Vernon, 82 there in Bellingham. And then as we go south, you can see here as we get down toward the coast, pretty hot there for the coastal standard. 74 is pretty warm on ocean shores, and then 90 in Centralia, and we continue going south here. Portland recorded 99 degrees, I believe. Yes, 99 the official high there in Portland, and a few hundreds across parts of southwest Washington and the Willamette Valley as well. Very similar day expected today in terms of temperatures. So taking a look at why that is happening, take a look at the European model. Here we have this large ridge offshore that is causing our heat wave right now. You can see that ridge continues through the day Tuesday, and then it starts to break down as we go into Wednesday. We're going to cool down a lot going into Wednesday, like dropping 20 degrees off those high temperatures. And then as we go into Thursday, we start to set up that pattern for that potential summer atmospheric river. And then as we go into Friday, you see that atmospheric river pattern right there, this flow between the ridge and the trough, and you got this area of moisture that's going to come into Western Washington. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment as this trough hangs out here around Haida Gwaii and parts of BC, could bring some more systems into Western Washington there. So taking a look at precipitation type, we are dry all the way through Wednesday. Start to get some showers across BC and parts of the Cascades as we go into Wednesday night, and then some spotty showers through the evening on Thursday, and then the rain starts to move in early Friday there, and you can see that atmospheric river signature there. Heavy rain at times for some portions of the area, especially the coast, as we go into Friday night, Saturday morning. You can see we even have a 995 millibar low center moving into Haida Gwaii, so this is very much like a fall system, just pretty weak. But this atmospheric river is going to be juiced. It's going to have a ton of moisture in it because it's so warm. And that rain continues at times into Saturday. You see how you get that atmospheric river signature pushing south across the area. Then we turn into showers as we go into Saturday night. Now, taking a look at this in terms of precipitable water, that is how much water vapor is in the atmosphere. And you can see it right there. That is an atmospheric river. If we zoom out a little bit here, we can go to the oceanic view here real quick, folks, and we can take a look at Northeast Pacific. And there you can see it. That is an atmospheric river, and it is going to be pushing toward Western Washington there. Look at 8 p.m. Friday, and you can just see it, that moisture slamming into the northwest and likely bringing some heavy rain at times. And this is pretty high moisture content just because it's so warm right now, and we're able to tap into a lot of that subtropical moisture. You can see it then pushes south across the area as we go through Saturday and Sunday. So this is very much something we need to watch over the next few days. And in terms of precipitation amounts, this is the national blend of models showing total precipitation through the weekend. And you can see we get up to an inch across Seattle, and a little bit less on the rain shadow there up toward Bellingham and Vancouver, 1.5 to 2 inches. The coast, 1 to 2.5 inches, and the mountains even getting 1.5 to 2.5 inches. So this is, I know it's pretty crazy to be talking about this as we're looking at highs in the 90s for parts of the area today and tomorrow, but this is what we're looking at the end of this week, and this is going to be our big weather story coming up after this heat wave. So this is definitely something we need to watch very closely. And then taking a look at the GFS forecast here and the atmospheric river prediction system. I believe this is from one of the universities in California, and this is basically just showing your atmospheric river categories. And it's pretty crazy here that you're seeing on the coast atmospheric river category 2 and 3 possibly in August. So this is very interesting. Even look up toward parts of Southeast Alaska and British Columbia there near Haida Gwaii and some of the Inside Passage and stuff like that. You're getting some atmospheric river level 4 readings right there. But the Pacific Northwest coast showing atmospheric river 2 to 3. That is very interesting to see here in August. Sorry, not July. So let's continue to watch this very closely over the next few days. This will definitely be the topic of my videos, especially as this heat wave starts to move on. But that heat wave is what we're dealing with today, and we got to take a look at it closely. So this is the National Lenda models. We're looking at high temperatures today on Monday, and you can see it is just going to be pretty hot across the region. From Seattle northward, you're having highs there west of I-5 in the mid-70s to low 80s. East of I-5, though, or in any areas where exposed to any offshore flow, highs likely in the mid-80s to mid-90s. You can see some of the Fraser Valley there near Abbotsford getting up to 94 degrees. That includes parts of like Linden and Sumas and stuff like that. 86 in Bellingham, 85 there right on the Canadian border near Peace Arch. And even in the San Juans getting up into the mid-70s to low 80s. From Seattle southward and west, you're having highs in the upper 80s to low 90s. You can see Olympia and Shelton there in the low 90s. And then from Olympia southward to Portland, highs in the low to mid 90s. And then Portland itself, again, and Clark County there in the upper 90s to low 100s, showing 99 again for Portland today. And that forecast was a little bit on the cool side yesterday, so 100 degrees is very possible. And then take a look at the coast. With that offshore flow, you're expecting highs on the beaches in the mid 70s and inland a little bit in the low to mid 80s, maybe even some upper 80s there near Forks where you can get a lot of offshore flow. So it is going to be very hot today, that is for sure. And we get a little bit hotter in the interior as we go into tomorrow. So some of that onshore flow returns, making areas from Whidbey Island northward a few degrees cooler in the mid-70s to mid-80s. Still some upper 80s as you go into some of the mountain valleys. But from about Mount Vernon southward, you're expecting highs near the water in the mid-80s, away from the water in the upper 80s to mid-90s. You're looking at 90 in Seattle, 93 to 94 in Tacoma, 95 in Olympia, and then 96 as you go down the I-5 corridor toward Portland, which will likely be pushing 100 degrees again. The coast cools a few degrees with the onshore flow into the low to mid-70s, maybe a few upper 70s still. But this Tuesday here is going to be the hottest day, especially from Seattle down toward Portland, and you're definitely going to see some 90s, mid-90s possibly, maybe even some upper 90s as we go from Seattle down to Olympia and then even further south. So definitely one of the hottest days of the year so far coming up on Tuesday. But then take a look at Wednesday. Night and day difference there. Highs drop all the way into the mid-70s for most of the region. Low 70s from Seattle northward. Mid-60s on the coast. Even Portland drops from 100 to about 85 degrees. So just a huge difference on Wednesday. We cool further as we go into Thursday in the low to mid-70s across the region. Upper 70s in southwest Washington around Portland. And then mid-60s still on the coast. And then Friday, as that atmospheric river starts to move in, highs drop all the way to the mid to upper 60s across the entirety of the area. Low 70s around the Willamette Valley. And then we rebound a tiny bit as that atmospheric river starts to push out of the area Saturday afternoon back into the low 70s. It will also likely be very humid during this time, so we'll have to watch that closely as well. Now, this is something we really need to pay attention to with this heat wave, and we saw it last night, is that temperatures are not cooling down all that much. And this is for Tuesday morning, so overnight lows tonight into Tuesday morning. And take a look at that, 67 degrees in Seattle, 69 in Portland, even up in Vancouver, 69 63 in Bellingham. So basically, you get the picture. It's not cooling down very much. Those lows are in the low to mid 60s. For people who have trouble with it being hot at night especially, this is something that can make heat illness even worse when you go inside and it's just not that cool, especially in the metro areas. You're looking at the mid 60s in Seattle and Tacoma, maybe some upper 60s around downtown, and then upper 60s to low 70s for lows around Portland. So it can be dangerous with these kind of low temperatures, so you have to really watch this closely. Wednesday morning, we will be much cooler as some of that marine air starts to move in Tuesday night. Those lows remain in the mid-60s for the Seattle and Portland metro areas, but outside of that, likely in the upper 50s to low 60s, even some mid-50s on the coast. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we cool down back to seasonable lows in the mid to upper 50s. But just remember, these types of lows here, where you're looking in the mid-60s, upper 60s and stuff, can definitely be dangerous. So really pay attention to that these next couple mornings here and overnights as well. And then just wanted to point this out, European model here showing the change in temperatures from Tuesday into Wednesday. So Tuesday, of course, our hottest day with highs in the 90s for a lot of the region, but going into Wednesday, those temperatures absolutely crash. And here's the 24-hour difference. You're looking at highs dropping 20 to 25 degrees for parts of the southwest interior of Washington, 15 to 20 degrees for Portland, and the Seattle metro area all the way down 10 to 20 degrees. So it's really just going to be interesting to see that huge difference as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday. Going to be breezy as well, winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour. And then also what I wanted to point out is that with this drier pattern that we have these next few days, you can see there is more fire activity popping up there on the perimeter of the Bear Gulch fire, 5,650 acres at last update. But this did produce some more smoke last night. I was able to see some of it with my drone from Federal Way looking over toward the fire here. And as we take a look at the forecast for this, we can see that through the day today, you see that offshore flow. It pushes that smoke across Grace Harbor County and out to sea, and then it sags south a little bit as the winds calm down as we go into the evening. And then take a look as we go into Tuesday, the flow turns back onshore, and that smoke starts to push east over parts of the metro area as we go into Tuesday evening. However, this is likely going to remain aloft, but you can see that little bit of smoke pushing east across Seattle, Tacoma, and Olympia as we go into Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. And then taking a look at surface smoke here, you can see Monday, you don't really get that much surface smoke except up in the Olympic Mountains. You can see it is pretty concentrated as we go into this afternoon around Lake Cushman, and then some of that does start to push out toward Hood Canal tonight, and that's how we start again tomorrow morning. And then as we go through Tuesday, that smoke pushes the other way up along parts of Hood Canal toward Jefferson County with the onshore winds, and then diminishes. You can see a little bit of that surface smoke possibly in some of the mountains as well before the fire calms down as we go into Wednesday with those cooler temperatures and higher humidity. And taking a look at air quality, right now we are mostly good across the region except around Lake Cushman there, where you have air quality in the unhealthy and hazardous categories. Across the rest of the region, you're looking pretty nice with air quality in the good category. So we'll hope that that continues, especially with the rain coming up at the end of this week that will really make our air nice and clean, even around the fire. So yeah, we had a lot to talk about there in this video, and we'll continue to have more to talk about through this week, especially with that potential summer atmospheric river coming Friday into Saturday. So to stay updated as best you can, be sure to subscribe here to Western Washington Weather on YouTube, and follow me on Blue Sky on Twitter and the Western Washington Weather Facebook group, which is turning 1 year old this week. So that is pretty exciting. The links to all of these are in the description below. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.